2022 Endurance eRacing World Championship brought to you in partnership with Viper Gaming by Patriots, Aztec Sim Sports, Global Flicks, Motorvision.tv, Stengel, ESTV, and Film Vault Limited.
Racing for Green is here to help you carbon neutralize your racing. By planting new trees, Racing for Green offers to make your racing carbon neutral. We already have the calculations, contacts, infrastructure, deals and solutions ready for you to easily buy carbon neutral laps on any racetrack. It doesn't matter if you are a racing fan, team owner, driver, sponsor or partner. Anyone can buy CO2 neutral laps in the Racing for Green webshop and trade CO2 emissions for New Forest. Racing for Green.
Welcome back, folks. We've got half an hour remaining here at Matsusaka, the season opener for the Endurance eRacing World Championship 2022. It's been absolutely phenomenal so far. We had about 9 hours of pure non-stop action. We've had a bit of a downtime, and now we hear that there might be some rain to grace us for the final 10 minutes.
Yeah, we did see some weather on the horizon here at Matsusaka. A big thank you for everyone for tuning in so far. 28 minutes still to go. Good to see Maria Rinhack in the chat on YouTube. Glam Racing HQ eats salad each race, because just so you can put it back in the fridge quickly if you need to get back into the rig. Well put there. There's some very, very interesting choices. Alexander Zekka's description of frozen pizza: heat it up, have a few bites, off you go, jobs are good. But yeah, things are really heating up. I mean, LMP2 at the moment, Nabil Aslan still leading for Sem 9 Axel, but Damien Scovron, who started in the car earlier on when we went green 11 and a half, or just over 11 and a half hours ago, is 16 seconds adrift. And I'm keeping my eye on those lap times. It's going to be close between the two at the end of the race. I mean, 1 minute 50.758 for Nabil Aslan. Damien Scovron has just put in a 1 minute 48.2. The gap is coming down between the two cars as Damien makes his way through 130R at breakneck speed. Nice and neat and tidy for the 94 Burst Esport Gooder Sunglasses car. But at the moment, Yusuf bin Suhail, it has been pretty much a masterclass by Burst Esports Simplexity in the lead of the DPI. They are multiple laps ahead of Miradlis E-Stars. We thought the lead was going to be substantial. Not quite that substantial, I must admit.
6 laps, and that's not 6 laps over anyone. That's 6 laps over the likes of Henry Sinek, Jimmy Nisler, James Zuber, Leonardo de Suitis, pardon me. And it's been absolutely impeccable from them. But we do have this potential battle for the LMP2 class. Nabil Aslan having just made his final pit stop of the race. There won't be any new tyres going onto that car. That is it. Nabil Aslan and Damien Skovron now battling to the end of the race with 15 seconds separating the pair of them, and we wouldn't want it to end any other way.
No, not at all. Good to see Vinicius de Oliveira dos Santos. Alicia, strong driver as always. Brazilian flag on the top of the podium. Well, it's looking pretty good for the number 585 Volante Racing by Azatec Simsport. Neto behind the wheel of the car at the moment. The biggest surprise, I think, for a lot of us, B32 Racing. Qualified last in class, Yusuf. They're currently running P2. They're about a minute and 25 seconds or so behind, but that is on genuinely just weathering the storm of action that we've had here at Matsusaka, and we've had quite a few casualties. CKR and GT3, GTE, MCM Motorsport in the 27 and the 53. The defending champions, Musto Pescara, MPE, out because of an issue for Aros Mashuli. Then also I think we also have we do have quite a few other cars still running. We had 20 cars starting this grid, but it is the final countdown. It's 25 minutes to go. We are still deep into the night here in Asia, in Japan, at the Matsusaka circuit. And looking at this shot here, just giving you an idea, coming into the first corner, how fast these cars are pushing. You know, you're seeing speeds approaching 290 kilometers an hour from the DPIs, and especially when they get a tow, that's going to give them an extra kilometer an hour or two of additional pace. And we're going to be well north of 2,000 kilometers completed by the race winners by the end when we hit the checkered flag in just over 24 and a half minutes.
And speaking of pushing, Nabil Aslan and that 2179 Axel car has found their pace, pulling nearly 2 seconds to Damien Skovron last time around, and they're essentially just saying, look, Burst, I know you guys, you want to come and get this bread, you guys want this win, you ain't getting it because we have the pace advantage. One big battle to watch out for though, and I think the only real place where we're really going to see that stadium battle between two drivers is in the GTE class for P3. Alexander Zakharov and DIS Sim Racing Lab. At the moment there's 23.5 seconds separating the pair of them. Alexander Zakharov is going slowly, and the reason for that is I think the 717 Unison car is trying to make it to the end of the race with its current fuel load. We were talking about the possibility of them having to go for a splash and dash at the end, and I think they've decided against that. They're just going to try to stretch out this fuel for those 1-2 extra laps, which means that they're going to have to defend off a raging DIS in the final few laps of this race.
Yeah, just keeping a look at Tony Janssen in the number 74 Juices Motorsport Club Academy car, the Aston Martin. They switched from Porsche from last year in GTE, went to Aston Martin, and it seems like the hard work in the off-season has paid off for the number 74 car, and is leading by just shy of 31 seconds ahead of Giordano Valeriano of Musto Pescara in the 54 car. MPE running with the same numbers as they did last year, but obviously drama befalling the defending champions. The 54 has had to pick up the slack on the tug of war in GTE and is rolling with the punches, and still to get to the end of the race, that'll be a completed lap, that'll be a completed race bonus point, and also some points on the board for finishing runner-up.
I'm just double checking how many drivers we still have in this race. A total of 24. Sadly, that Glam Racing car at the back. And for Glam Racing, it's been a mixed weekend. There was that period where we thought that they had pole, and then it turned out that Mugen's lap times were recorded, so they ended up starting in second. Then Glam Racing were actually leading the race. Then they had the issue where I think it was a disconnect that they had from the server. Yeah,
they were trying to reconnect. I think it was Alexander van der Voorde who was having that absolutely titanic battle with Magic Kasperschik, who spoke with Chris and I think it was yourself or Kieran a bit earlier. I think it was Kieran earlier on in the broadcast. And the way that I said this to Kieran earlier on, the way that he just, I think I mentioned this to you, didn't I, that he basically greeted in Magic in his own language, and then all of a sudden the camera just decided to go whoops-a-daisy and do a bit of... It
was myself and Chris.
It was yourself and Chris, and the camera decided not to play ball, let's say, and it just goes to show that even in this kind of side of things, this does happen. But you know, looking at the side of things with regards to
okay.
Well, okay. Yeah, we're just trying to get things back out on track, and we go back to the car that's second in the LMP2 class. I mean, a noble effort. You know, Burst were looking for 2 victories in 2 classes, respectively. I think there was a very, very good point that at some point some of us made, that, you know, you're going to win a championship on consistency. And Burst Esport, good as sunglasses, will go into Monza. They'll have looked through everything. They'll have made sure that there was no stone unturned, Yusuf. And you don't win a championship in the first round, let alone the first lap, but it comes down to, and we saw that with multiple, we saw the LMP2 battle go down to the wire, we saw the GTE battle go down to the wire, we saw the GT3 battle go down to the wire last season, and now coming into 2022, everything's been reset, everyone's on ground zero, they're on the same pegging order, no one's managed to get some points, but qualifying started to really show the battle lines being drawn, and we've been treated to one hell of a spectacle here at Matsusaka. I'm really looking forward to, I mean, despite the fact that, yeah, you and myself, you and Kieran will be flying back to the UK, Kieran tomorrow night, you and me on Monday morning, we will be waiting with bated anticipation to come back here for the 12 Hours of Monza in late March, and we're going to see a completely different dynamic of the championship, because it's a full throttle circuit. It's over 75% full throttle. There's heavy braking zones, there's tight chicanes like the Della Roggia, Rettifiglio, you've got the 2 Lesmos, very much not too dissimilar from the 2 Degnas that we've got here at Matsusaka, and in its own right you've got the triple apex at Ascari that's going to really, really push those drivers. They're going to have to go through it pretty quickly, but then it's down to Parabolica, which has actually been named after now late F1 driver Michele Alboreto, so it's Curva Alboreto instead of Parabolica these days. So
I'm going to be honest with you, I'm still probably going to end up calling it Parabolica.
It's not a problem, it's what most people know about. And Maria Rinak, we will come and see you guys at Glam Racing HQ. I'm going to make sure that's on my itinerary for when I come back here in March for the second round of the championship. But we're now seeing Giordano Valeriano for the number 54 car. It's been a steady run. I mean, Deegan Fairclough has been a real standout star in that driver squad, I'll be completely honest with you. A young lad, but with some of the, you know, Giuseppe De Fuoco, Giordano Valeriano, Manuel Biancolila and Alessandro Quintale, you know, a real crack squad of drivers in this crew, but Deegan's just brought his own flair to the mix here in MPE, and that's really proved big dividends for this crew. They're second, the gap's now just under 30 seconds. They now know that they've got to bring the car home in second position. This is going to be a nice haul of points going into Monza, where it will be the team's home soil event, and you can bet your bottom dollar that both cars and both teams will be fired up and ready to fight at Monza.
Especially for the 53 car after, well, there's no other way to put it, a disaster here in Matsusaka. They look decent in qualifying. Sure, it was only P4, but we know the pace that they have underneath the hood of that 53 car, and then it all just went horribly, horribly wrong. Out of the race after the issues for Eros Mashihuli, and they haven't, well, they ended up being forced to retire, so no points for them, and it's going to be a long championship ahead. Now, DIS are still closing in onto Alexander Zakharov. They've been taking out multiple seconds every lap out of Alexander. 17 minutes remaining. We're talking about 9 laps in total. So that's about 2 seconds a lap DIS need to find over Alexander Zakharov. Will they be able to find it? It's going to be nip and tuck. It's really close. And
it is.
Only Unison know how much fuel they have. Only they know how much fuel saving they have to do.
Well, I mean, you said about splash and dash, and I'm keeping my keen eye on Unison Racing as they come out of the final corner, but
they can't. If they splash and dash, it's over.
Exactly, because they're going to be in that pit lane going to be trundling down the pit lane at the 50 km/h speed limit. Then they've got to stop in the box. That's going to be 10 seconds of fuel going in. Then they've got to go out. That's going to be the best part of nearly a minute, and that is going to put DIS Sim Racing Lab in exactly the position where they need to be. And Yannick Godharden was very, very precise. He said, you know, we're going to go for it. We're going to see what happens. That's the best attitude to have at this particular point in the race. When we spoke to him the best part of nearly an hour ago, when we got the peace sign from Yannick, and then he said, waved at the camera, which is quite cool. It's really good to see that, and we really do appreciate all the guests that have come on. Tom Oldenmenger, Rasmus Andreasen, Michi Hoyer. Got a yellow out. Oh, Sebastian Deville has brought out a yellow in Sector 3 for the number 33 Team Adrenaline DPI. Oh, that car I've just seen has ended up in the garage, Yusuf.
Oh, that is not good for Sebastian Deville. That's actually... No, they should be fine. They've got 9 laps between themselves and Viaducton, so
yeah,
in the grand scheme of things, in terms of number of points, it's fine as long as they get back onto the track and complete the race before the checker flag comes out in 15 minutes time. They are fine there. What else do we have? DIS still trying to close in, 1.5 seconds out of Alexander Zakharov last time round, not quite enough. Damian Skovron in the 94 burst car, not really closing in onto Nabil Aslan, taking a second out of the 21 last time, but the gap just yo-yoing back and forth with every passing lap.
Yeah, gap now for third place in GT. We're going to go to the leaderboards at the moment. Jesper Pedersen for Burst Esports Simplexity leads DPI, still 6 laps between him and Henry Siddick for the number 64 Muratis E-Stars car. Unison Racing, the number 17, currently piloted by Denis Ashenko, rounds out the top 3. Sebastian Deville from Team Adrenaline, a further 3 laps adrift in 4th ahead of Viaducton, still running, and it looks like the number 11 car of Sem9 Axel concluded their tour of Matsusaka with a total of 207 laps completed. But the top 5 covered by 18 laps. We're now going to hopefully head to our LMP2 times in terms of the leaderboard, and here it comes. So at the moment it is Nabil Aslan, and that is on lap 380 so far of this race, a lap ahead of Damian Skovron from Burst Esport Good as Sunglasses. Team Iris, the number 77 car piloted by Bensi Horvath, rounds out the top 3. We've got a yellow out in Sector 1 as I speak. Marco Slanzi from Satellite Racing, the 164 is 4th. Saba Kiss for Juices Motorsport Club in 5th place. Could have been a battle for the victory for that car. Unfortunately, with the incident for Robert Pawn earlier where he suffered some buffering due to some issues with the computer, that put them on the back foot, and they're going to have to come screaming and fighting back at Monza with Tigran Mkhitaryan for Cyberlinks Racing in the 241 on 362 laps, 18 off of the leaders. Yusuf, if you want to take us through GTE and GT3, please.
Yeah, Tony Jansen leading for the Juices Motorsport Club, the 74 car ahead of the 54 Mosto Pescara car. They are a further 29 seconds behind. Then it's Alexander Zakharov in the 717 Unison Racing car. They've got DIS hunting them down, the 717 trying to make their way to the end of the race with whatever fuel they have left in the tank, trying to save fuel, and as a result DIS running, well, nearly 2 seconds a lap quicker. It's going to be really tight between the pair of them come the end of the race. Zoltan Varkoni in the Mugen car arguably shouldn't be all the way down in P5, but issues have affected them and it has resulted in them dropping down the order. It's been a phenomenal job from them to surge their way up back into 5th, but at the moment it doesn't look like they will be able to get any higher. Michael Pedersen in the 166 Teleforeningen car is sitting in 6th place, and then we have Adam State in the 264 Satellite Racing car. In the GT3 class, it's the 585 Volante Racing car of Elisio Neto, who leads from B32 Racing by just over 1 lap. In 3rd is Gabor Hevesi in the Mugen car, also flying, trying to close in. B32 though, the fastest GT3 car on the field, at least they were until Carl Lukagor pumped in a 58.5, their personal best time of the race. Not quite the fastest GT lap though. So that 777 DSR car sitting in P4. Jan Brodskor in the 188 car is sitting in 5th ahead of Henrik Hoyer in the 404 Glam Racing car.
Yep, so the laps and time counting down for the opening round of the 2022 Endurance E-Racing World Championship here on GTR24H. 12 hours of Matsusaka. We're into the last 12 minutes. I can't believe I'm saying that, Yusuf, right now, but keeping my keen eyes, DIS, gap now down to 13.6 seconds.
Do you think they do it?
There's a possible chance this could happen because
very possible.
I've seen the lap time. Zakharov 2 minute 1.285. DIS have been running about a second and a half a lap quicker in the Porsche, and it was very good to hear from Yannick earlier on to give us an insight saying that, you know, we learnt about the car last season. That was important for them, and now they have a chance to get a top 3 in the first round of the championship. It's not out of the realms of possibility, because Zakirov is very shortly going to be crossing the line as DIS coming through the Casio triangle. I'm going to keep my eyes on this. Lap time this time around for Alexander Zakirov, 2:01.207 as DIS out of the final corner. They're going to come across the line shortly. Oh, it's another 1.3 seconds gap down to 12.5 and closing.
What do you think? Do they take it?
I think it's going to be... They've got to keep... I think it's going to be difficult. I think Unison might hold on. But if they're running in the 2:01s, I know for a fact they've got Andy Kurtzen in that car. We know what Andy's like, former GTR24H champion in the EEWC. Never count that man out at all.
So, was that a yes they can do it, or a no, Unison are going to hold on?
I think Unison, by the skin of the anime livery on their car, are going to hold on for third position, because you don't want a mistake like that from DIS. They've got off the track. That has thrown it all asunder.
Oh, that's cost them about 2 to 3 seconds. Maybe there's still a chance for DIS, but Andy Kurtzen wringing the neck of that Porsche. I was going to say I agree with you, but I think with that it's taken the 10% chance that DIS had and it's thrown it down to about a 2% chance.
I think it's minus 10. I mean, look, the car just went really, really wide going through the corner, and then all of a sudden grass cracking. That was through the Degners, one of the fastest, one of the most technical parts of the circuit. And yeah, and actually a big thank you to John Fabricius. The car actually kissed the wall when it went over exit stage left. So they might be driving with a little bit of a wounded animal right now, and that's put paid to it, because we've got 9 minutes to go. There is no way, unless there is a drama, because the last lap it was a 1 minute 59.9 for DIS. That lap is going to be north of 2 minutes, and Zakirov is coaxing the car home. It's a 2 minute 2.6. I'm going to keep my eyes on what is happening with Zakirov. I'm actually going to go on board with him as we speak. And
DIS actually lost a second that time round. They went faster in sector 3, so they've picked up the pace once again, but they lost 1.5, well, they lost 2 seconds in that middle sector.
Yeah.
Now 13.3 seconds behind. There's a fun anime saying of I have the power of God and anime on my side, and I think maybe Unison Racing might be channeling some of that energy.
I think so. I think the anime livery has been a bit of a godsend for them, so to speak. But riding on board with Alexander Zakirov at the moment, that's in the bottom left of your screen, and Damien Skovron for Burst Esport, good as sunglasses in the second placed LMP2 car at the moment. We're getting into the last just under 8 minutes to go. The air temperature 22 degrees Celsius, track temperature 26 degrees Celsius. And at the moment, the way things are, that Sem 9 Axel will be on course for their first ever victory in GTR24H. Known when they came to us for the last 2 rounds of the championship, 24 Hours of Spa and the EEWC Le Mans finale. It wasn't a great start to their journey within GTR24H, but I think one of the things now is that they are just bringing that car home, and they've done an absolutely sterling job. The pairing of Nabil Aslan and Inigo Anton from the Philippines, they have the Malaysian-Philippine combination has worked really, really well indeed, as we see on board now with DIS Sim Racing Labs. Still, hang on a second, that gap has gone down. That's gone down because DIS, we're going to see a replay here, catching a little bit of a slide.
But watch how he slots in behind this DPI car, almost instantly behind the Satellite Racing car. Sorry, not the DPI, the LMP2. First sector, DIS taking 2 seconds out of Alexander Zakirov. Middle sector, 1 second out of Zakirov. Final sector, 6/10 out of Zakirov. He just took 3.5 seconds out of the Unison Racing car. The gap down to 10 seconds between the pair of them, but there's only 6 minutes to go. That's the 3-4 laps, depending on when Jesper Pedersen crosses the line.
Yeah, that is going to be the key crux moment of when, as soon as they're on that final lap, you know, as soon as Jesper Pedersen comes across the line and we know that there's time left on the counter, that will give a window of opportunity, I feel, for DIS in this latter stages of the race. And you said about the fact that Andy Kirsten will be bringing that car kicking and screaming. Gap now under 10 seconds. And I'm keeping an eye on the intermediate sector times between the two. And yeah, that was their best lap so far in the latter stages of the race. Apart from the earlier lap where we saw a 1 minute 57.6 from DIS, or 1 minute 58.2 for Unison Racing. And there you see the car on your screen. And I'm keeping an eye on what is happening, because if that is another slow lap, if that's another 2 minute 3, and DIS running the high 1 minute 59s, and we've got just over 5 minutes to go. I am on tender hooks right now, Yusuf. I don't know what to think, because DIS, if they pull this off, it will be one of the most impressive displays that we've seen. We've seen DIS in the wars last year. Silverstone, we had that great battle between them and the likes of Volante Racing, amongst others, and you can see how hard DIS are pushing. Gap now down to 9 seconds. It's 8.5. It's closing rapidly at a consummate rate of knots. It was a 2 minute 1.191 for Unison Racing. DIS about to cross the line. 1 minute 59.087. They've pushed even quicker. Gap now down to 8.8. And now we go to Jesper Pedersen in the top right hand corner, Damian Skovron in LMP2 on the bottom right, Alexander Zakharov third place in GTE on the bottom left, and top left DIS Sim Racing Lab.
Just looking in the chat as well, we've got some fans for Unison, got some fans for Volante, and some fans for Glam Racing, all cheering their teams on. But that 8.5 second gap, if it wasn't for that little mistake from Andy Kurtzen, that would be 6.5 seconds right now. It could be that little bit closer. You know what would be drama to add right at the end of this race? Imagine if Unison Racing run out of fuel into the final chicane.
Oh, that would be absolutely devastating for their opportunity. We're now going to get... Now, the thing is, Jesper Pedersen has crossed the line with 3 minutes and 50 to go. They're running on the, at the moment, 1:45.7s. So that's going to give us 3 more laps of racing. So now, at the minute, gap now down to 7.5 seconds. This is coming down to the wire for the final step on the rostrum for GTE.
Zakharov starting to pick up the pace. Unison know that they need to go that little bit faster, and they're finally balancing fuel and pace right now. It is such a tricky situation. If only Andy Kurtzen didn't mess up Degner 1.
Well, I mean, the thing is that if they go across the line, Unison Racing in third position, they'll be thanking their lucky stars for small mercies, because they got to get out of jail free.
Oh my god! Wow, that back end through 130R commitment from DIS. I wonder how much time it's cost them. Again, they're gaining smaller oh my god! He's getting on the power as early as he dares right now as Andy Kurtzen.
Those tyres must be absolutely shredded to within an inch of the bitumen that normally surrounds the tyre when it gets put on the car for the very first time. But you can see the gap is still 7.7 seconds. 2.5 minutes to go here in the first round of the 2022 GTR24H Endurance eRacing World Championship. And at the moment, Jesper Pedersen is very shortly, I think, going to be going on to the, possibly the penultimate lap of the race. We've got 2 minutes and 9 seconds still to go. And that car, I'm keeping my beady eyes on it. We're now going to go on to the penultimate lap of the race itself. There we go. Just over 2 minutes remain. We could have this. We might even have, this and another lap. And that's it. Job done for Burst Esports Simplexity. They have romped away into the distance. And you know what's even funnier? You know the overall classification? It's a DPI leading an LMP, the leading 4 LMP2s.
Yeah.
Maradnis E-Stars need to come firing back on all cylinders at Monza next month. But here is Alexander Zakharov, gap now down to 6.6. And I'm going to keep an eye on the lap times now. I'm just scanning through them. 1 minute 59.863 for DIS Sim Racing Lab. 2 minute 0.949 for Unison. They've picked up the pace enough. I think Alexander Zakharov was doing a bit of lifting and coasting in order to keep a little bit more fuel in that tank of that BMW M8, and their strategy, I think, might have been pulled off, because now we enter the last 60 seconds of the race itself. Jesper Pedersen making his way through 200R.
DIS are stuck in traffic. They're trying to flash this Teleferiningen car. They're trying to tell it, get out of the way. You're not in a race. We are. Just let us go. We're in different classes. We're not racing the same battle. But the Teleferiningen car doesn't care. They're getting on with their own race. DIS closing in on the start-finish straight, looking for the inside into turn 1, and the Teleferiningen car will lift out.
Right, I'm going to try and find our leaders at the moment, because you can see all the cars now streaming past the start-finish line. There is the leader, Jesper Pedersen, for Burst Esports Simplexity. 19 seconds on the clock remain. We are going to go on to our final lap of the race. And Pedersen is bringing the car home for Burst Esports Simplexity. I'm going to ride on board with the number 18. It's the esports arm of Bicolors Racing. Burst Esports doing a fantastic job with the storming efforts of David Mrocek, Jone Simoncic and Michi Hoyer in qualifying, but Jesper Pedersen has stepped up to the plate. We're going through into the S's. There's the 67 Mugen Sim Racing BMW M8 GTE just up ahead, and that car currently in the class is showing as 5th with Zoltan Varkonyi behind the wheel. There is a yellow flag out in sector number 1, but you can see there Jesper Pedersen on board on the bottom left. Nabil Aslan for Sem9 Axel on course to taking its maiden GTR24H victory. The timer has officially hit 0. Jesper Pedersen filtering his way through in towards what looks to be Spoon Curve for what's going to be the last time of this race. Tony Janssen bringing home the bacon for Juices Motorsport Club in the GTE class through Spoon Curve for the final time. Down the back stretch, powers Jesper Pedersen. Burst Esports Simplexity have just the 130R corner and the Casio triangle to negotiate, and victory will be theirs. Firing it through at full commitment, full racing speed, hard on the brakes, down into first gear, turning into the right, turning into the left. And ladies and gentlemen, out of the final corner, it's Burst Esports Simplexity with Jesper Pedersen that wins the 12 Hours of Matsusaka for DPI. And overall, what a job by them. From lights out to checkered flag, it was a masterclass, and they finished 6 laps ahead of Muradnis E-Stars in the meantime. And it looks like it's victory for Sem9 Axel in LMP2, Yusuf.
Where did that come from, Sem9 Axel? We saw them racing in the Endurance Racing World Championship last year. They had issues. They've had issues here today, but it's been mainly plaguing their hypercar team. It's been plaguing the DPI, but for Nabil Aslan and the rest of that 21 Sem9 Axel team, what a drive for them. They will take the LMP2 class. We're 19 seconds clear of Damian Skovron.
GTE, Tony Janssen brings it home. There's a flash of lights. There's going to be celebrations in the Juices Motorsport Club. A real shame for their LMP2 car, which finishes 5th in class. Giordano Valeriano brings it home for the Italian squad. MPE, Pescara Engineering, and it looks like Alexander Zakharov, the gap is close to less than 4 seconds, but they are coming through what is going to be the backstretch for the final time. Zakharov, I think, has played this card to absolute perfection, waited to build up enough fuel in that car, lifting and coasting. The strategy was very much there. They thought, we're going to bring it home, we're going to get our first podium in GTE, and Zakharov has done a fantastic job bringing it home amongst others, as there's a little bit of a lunge from Team Iris on Team Viaducton, but out of the final corner, it's going to be a welcome podium for Alexander Zakharov and the team at Unison Racing in the 717 car. And we're waiting for our 4th and final class leader. It's going to be the GTE crew of the 585 of Valente Racing by Azatec Sim Sport. They are going to come across the line very, very shortly, I would imagine. And I'm sure there's going to be some celebrations in the meantime. There might be some donuts if someone decides to oblige. But there we go. 12 hours, 391 laps completed by the overall race winner. And that is Burst Esports Simplexity in the number 18 car. Muradnis E-Stars take the runner-up spot in DPI. It's Nabil Aslan and victory for Sem9 Axel and LMP2 by close to 55 seconds ahead of Burst Esports Good as Sunglasses, with Team Iris taking a podium in the LMP2 class. GTE and GT3, please, Yusuf.
Yeah, GTE class, Tony Hansen takes a win from Giordano Valeriano. Alexander Zakharov in P3 for Unison Racing, ahead of DIS Sim Racing in the end. It was about 2.5-3 seconds separating the two of them, if only Andy Kurtzen didn't make that little mistake. 67 Mugen Sim Racing on their recovery drive take P5 ahead of the 166 the 166 ID Sim Sport car for Michael Pedersen. Adam State rounding out the GTE field. In the GT3 class, it was Volanti Racing taking the win ahead of the 32B32 racing car. Gabo Hevesi taking P3 from Mugen Sim Racing ahead of Karl Lukago in the 777 DSR car. Then the 188 Teleforeningen of Jan Brodsko ahead of the 404 Glam Racing car, which was piloted by Henrik Hoyer.
And some celebrations in the pit lane. It looks like down there I see an Audi spinning up its rear wheels quite significantly. That's it for the race. We're going to have a bit of a post-race analysis with myself, Alex Goldschmidt, and Yusuf bin Sahar. We'll be back in a couple of minutes' time. The 2022 Endurance eRacing World Championship brought to you in partnership with Viper Gaming by Patriot, Azatec Sim Sports, Global Flix, Motorvision.tv, Stengolm, ESTV, and Film Vault Limited.
Racing for Green is here to help you carbon neutralize your racing. By planting new trees, Racing for Green offers to make your racing carbon neutral. We already have the calculations, contacts, infrastructure, deals and solutions ready for you to easily buy carbon neutral laps on any racetrack. It doesn't matter if you are a racing fan, team owner, driver, sponsor or partner. Anyone can buy CO2 neutral laps in the Racing for Green webshop and trade CO2 emissions for New Forest. Racing for Green.